Good day, students. Today we are having a look at project time management, and just like planning, it is everything. First of all, let's define it. So, plan schedule management establishes policies, procedures, and documentation for managing the project schedule. It is not just about looking at your calendar and saying, Monday we lay the foundation, Tuesday we will put bricks up, and that's that. We'll just go based on our calendar. So, you establish rules and regulations as to how the project time will be managed, including procedures such as change requests that might come into play and documentation such as change request documentation that might potentially add scope creeps which could lengthen the project life cycle. So you want to know what are the rules for managing time on this project, how do we go about starting or scheduling each phase of the project to come to the end of the project life cycle on time. The key benefits: it provides guidance and schedule management throughout the project. You've got the rule book, you know the procedures, you know what to do, and therefore you are able to walk your way through the project, hopefully. Key components, of course, we start with our human resources, and those are the individuals involved. Who is in charge or responsible for scheduling? Is it one person or is it many? Generally speaking, it is very beneficial to just have one person managing this, and then you have this one person included in discussions with stakeholders when it comes to adding responsibilities or obligations to the scope that might lengthen the project life cycle. And so the stakeholders are involved in some way in this, as long as the person or people responsible for scheduling have a clear communication path with such people, and they are able to mitigate any potential lengthening of the project that could lead to issues with the stakeholders and investors at the end. The planning approach: determine the method for planning the schedule. How are you going to go about planning the schedule? Who are you going to contact? Are you going to receive expert judgment? For example, contact people who have already been here, done this project. Are you going to do a simulation of the project to see exactly how far you can come in a simulated situation? Are you going to do research? How are you going to plan the schedule? I do recommend speaking to experts in this case, where you can find out, especially if it's not something you've done, where you can find out how long it took, what the difficulties were, how they mitigated any sort of risks, and so on. Then you've got organizational procedures, where you utilize existing processes and procedures. You look back at your asset documents and you say, what did we do right in the past? What did we do wrong in the past? And how is it going to help us schedule going forward? Scheduling tools. So you select appropriate tools for scheduling, such as scheduling software, for example, or charts, which we are going to go over shortly. Development. This is created during the integration management phase of your project, often overlooked by project managers in practice because it is a step where you think, well, I know exactly what to do. I've done this 1,000 times. I don't have to relook at how we are going to schedule this. Even contractors who have built houses hundreds of times run into different kind of environmental risks or challenges, engineering challenges that they hadn't run into in the past. So it's important that you do sit down and you look at what could go wrong and right and how that could affect your schedule as well. So do not overlook this practice. It is of the utmost importance. The contents of schedule management plan. So this is what should be in that plan. The methodology, so detail the approach for schedule creation. How are you going to create your schedule? Your software usage, which we just spoke about, and then your measurement guidelines. Define how project processes and progress will be measured. Will it be in hours or days or weeks? This obviously depends on the kind of project that you are doing, and so the larger the project, the larger the time frame in which you will measure is the rule usually, but it is not always the case. It also depends on the complexity of the project. If it is something that is highly complex, you have to break it down into bite sizes and measure using smaller increments. Activity duration and effort. Outline the duration and effort for each activity. How much of your resources are you going to put into a specific phase? This will dictate the length of time you will be spending as well. The project baseline, as you know, the baseline, that is the standard by which you measure everything else. So this is I don't want to say the lowest you can go, but essentially it's the lowest you go, and then you build everything else upon that. This is, you cannot go below your baseline, and so you monitor and control using that. If you find that you are slipping below it, you know that there is a problem at hand. Variance management, this includes a plan to address schedule variances. How are you going to change, or how are you going to manage any changes in the schedule or variances that might be minor on a day-to-day basis, but can be mitigated during that day perhaps, and does not spill over into the ultimate life cycle of the project. You implement change control procedures for managing changes. We've spoken about this with your change documentation and your change requests. So you need to understand before the change is implemented how it will affect the remainder of the project and how any risks can be contained. Reporting requirements, you set requirements for reporting performance measures, how often it will be, when it will be, how you are going to report. Is it going to be via email, for example? Are you going to have a face-to-face meeting with whomever needs to have this reporting? And so you want to establish that before you initiate the project. Sometimes it happens during the project life cycle, and you find that you've run into certain challenges, and perhaps they become repetitive challenges, and therefore you are going to have to report at a more stringent basis. And you'll say, right, because we have run into these issues, let us for the next 4 weeks meet up at least once a week or even twice a week to discuss the progress and how we have made changes to ensure that what is currently going on will not spill into the following phase of the project, or after the project is complete, after service is complete, you will not have to rely on any sort of risk of this spilling over into your work time. Then you've got, my apologies, I nearly skipped. Facilitate analysis of deviations during the monitoring phase. So why were there deviations? What were the changes? So what are the causes and what are the effects? This is what you are looking at when you are facilitating the analysis of deviations. Then the nature of the plan can be formal or it can be informal. It can be expedited schedule estimation process with clear guidelines. So essentially, it can be a case where you say, right, let me just give so-and-so a call really quickly to let you know this is what is happening. Or, as mentioned previously, it can be a formal meeting where you sit down and you discuss, you document, but even your informal planning, you want to make sure that you document your steps. So even if it is minor, even if it's via email, just send a quick email, say this is what was discussed today. I trust that all is in order, and you can move on. Let us look at the flow of data. So the importance of planning. Successful projects require an organization-wide project management, a PM system, and individual project plans as well. You want to make sure that each project is outlined from start to finish so that you do understand going forward, and everyone else going forward understands this is where everyone's duties lie, these are the resources at hand, this is the scope, the timeline, etc. So treat every little project like it matters most. Then you've got your types of planning. So let's have a quick look at this. Long-range planning conceptualizes future goals for programs, facilities, systems, and personnel. So long-range planning in project management involves developing a strategic framework for projects that extend over a significant period, often several years. This approach focuses on aligning projects with the long-term goals and visions of an organization. And your key aspects are generally, you've got your vision and goals. First and foremost, without vision, people perish. So you've got your vision. You need to know what you are looking ahead at, because especially with long range projects, You might find that there can be a sense of demotivation as time goes by. You've got a higher risk of risks coming to pass. You've got a higher risk of change requests. You've got a higher risk of scope creeps and so on. And so this can lead to demotivating factors, but you need to have an end goal in mind. So you break up all of the goals. You place them in strategic alignment to ensure that all these individual little projects line up to meet that end goal. Think about streams flowing into the ocean being the main goal, and all your little streams, your little rivers are flowing in, and they need to be smooth sailing. They need to flow, right? It needs to be easy. But this does not always happen in project management. So you want to ensure that you break it up into smaller bites so that you can meet your macro goal. Your resource allocation, your risk assessment, milestones and phases, all of the little things that go into the larger project vision go into the smaller little projects, the smaller aims that you put together. You've also got your short-term planning, which obviously is on the contrary of long-range planning, but is equally important in terms of vision and mission statement. And this focuses on operational targets related to budgets, staffing, deadlines, and supplies. So you're looking at the now. Strategic and action plans. Your strategic planning examines specific businesses and markets for long-term success. You're looking at the details and you're asking yourself how it can affect the project and how you can affect the business and the market. The action plans, detailed implementation plans with timetables and accountability supporting strategic goals. Of course, you've got your contingency planning, which we do speak about very often because included in your, let's call it your mainstream plan, what is going to get you from start to end of your project, you need your contingency plan, which we will deal with more when we look at your risk management. And this, of course, addresses unexpected problems and changes in projects or the organization, and how you are going to get around that effortlessly. Challenges in planning. Many design firms lack formal planning practices, leading to inadequate resource allocation and service expansion. You often find in organizations that everything is so rushed from project to project that adequate planning is neglected. It is seen as secondary and planning, and it is usually masked with, no, you'll learn on the job. And so you find that this does, of course, lead to risks within the project, issues within the project. So adequate training is of the utmost importance as well. Project managers often lack comprehensive budgets, schedules, and work plans due to insufficient long-range planning, especially if whomever is sitting on the board of your planning and who might be a stakeholder of the project is very blasé about the plans and is very lax, thinking that everything just falls into place. And perhaps that works for some of your clients, but as a project planner, especially someone who needs to know what the next step is going to be, this is of high frustration. And so, because those budgets are often incomprehensive, the scheduling can be all over the place, not always due to the project manager, but due to stakeholders. So you need to learn how you are going to work around that, and going into a project saying this particular stakeholder is delaying us highly due to a lack of adequate resources, whether that be monetary, time resources, human resources, material resources. This person is causing delays or issues. How am I going to ensure that I can work around that, or make sure that before I even get started, knowing who I'm working with, I can make a plan to ensure that efficiency is still the method of the day. And then the data flow model, a diagrammic representation of data exchange within a system known as the data flow diagram, the DFD. It illustrates the processes that transform input data into output. So you'll find that every single module that you'll do, you'll need to understand what is the input, such as the project plan, how that is processed, and then what is the output. So we are dealing with that constantly, and we will again. Key elements: effective project management relies on planning and scheduling, of course. Clarity and structure: a clear written plan. You are 33% more likely to achieve a goal if it is written down. Should be developed and distributed to all team members, allowing for adjustments as necessary. As necessary. As necessary, not as we feel like. So let my annoying, repetitive voice ring in your head when you think changes just need to be made constantly. Do not, it's as needed. Motivation: a written plan acts like a to do list, helping to motivate both owners and employees. Everyone knows what needs to be done, what is being done, and what has been done. And it is a sense of achievement to see that small goals do get done at the end of a day or a week, whenever your timeline indicates. Completing tasks boost morale and represents progress. A schedule allows for monitoring progress and celebrating timely achievements or adjusting future estimates based on past performance. As I said, it is lovely to look at what you've done. It's also lovely to look at what you had done and where you are currently, how you have improved as time goes by. Improved communication, planning and scheduling enhance team communication, ensuring that everyone follows the same guidelines so that everyone is on a one track route. Some people are not going rogue, others feel like they're just going to do their own schedule and it's all over the place. Though there are guidelines and policies and procedures. So when we go back to the very beginning of the session, we see the importance, benefit, and necessity of making sure you manage your timeline according to your guidelines and policies given to you. The plan serves as a reference for managers during progress meetings, reducing misunderstandings. This is massive. Never make assumptions. So you'll see in your past papers as well, and in your examinations, you might be asked for assumptions. What are a list of assumptions that could be made? And you'll find the assumption could be that everyone on the team knows exactly when a certain part of the project is due. Everyone on the team knows exactly who to contact should there be a change in schedule. Everyone on the team knows exactly where to go should there be a lack of resources. It could be the case, well, I'm just assuming that there is a contingency fund involved in this project because that's always how it goes. So these are all assumptions that can be made in a project. You're looking at what is to be assumed. So if you are asked, what are assumptions that can be made about the following? These are a list of assumptions, and then you need to figure out how you are going to deal with those assumptions because they often come out after the assumption has already been made. Oh no, I just drove to X, Y, and Z place because I assumed so and so would be there to handle my query. So you need to ensure that you know the meaning of this piece because it's very likely to come up in an examination or a task. Your control thresholds define acceptable limits for cost, time, and quality. It is essential for managing project performance, the rules of performance measurements, and they focus on clarity of objectives, critical tasks, data accuracy. This is important, especially when there is a transmission of data from one place to the next. There needs to be accuracy in data being shared and actionable insights to drive results. Right, that is it from me today for this session, that is. Should you have any questions or queries, please feel free to reach out.